Thank you, thank you. All right, welcome to our presentation. We are thrilled to be here, hearing a lot about Wild West Hacking Fest. Looking forward to came here. It took us a full day from Montreal to come here, 3 different flights, and we missed the connection in Denver. Apparently that happens a lot. But now we're here to talk to you about our stuff beyond the malware, dissecting information stealers. So we'll talk about infection vectors, stolen assets, countermeasures, and all sorts of stuff. So with me is Eric Boivin. We were really well introduced, so we might zip through this slide. But so contributors to the research that we wanted to mention is Eric Clay and Estelle Ruella. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about information stealer malware. So what is it? Provider ecosystem, distribution ecosystem, how big of a problem this is. Then we're going to go through a journey of an infection via various screenshots. So these are all real-life victims of information stealer. Then we'll go after what's beyond the credentials. What else is stolen from the victims and that we can have access to when we have the logs. Defense and mitigation strategies, and then we're going to wrap up with a few gifts for you.
So let's chat about what is an information stealer at first. Maybe you've never heard of that, so we'll make sure to level set so that everybody is aware what we're talking about. So at first, what we have is we got someone that downloaded software, cracked software, mod for a video game, anything that can have an executable run, just like typical malware. But the thing is that this malware now is executed on the victim computer. And we're talking any computer. Typically what we're seeing, the computer at home. Next is that the info stealer, and this is in the name, info stealer, it steals information. It will go in the computer and extract the information that is found valuable for the threat actors. We're talking here credentials, of course, information about the device, like tons of information that is available there. It will now upload this data into a C2 infrastructure. And all of this, by the way, is run live. This is run without admin privileges. It executes, doesn't maintain persistence. So the information is sent to a C2, and then once it's packaged, the data will now be shared on dark web forums. So all of that data, typically it ends up in Telegram channels.
And so one of the things that they do is, as Eric mentioned before, is no admin rights is required and there's no persistence. So a lot of the cases can go unnoticed because no one was realized that something happened, right? This is kind of a clever trick that they did and that they learned by infecting people over the various years, and they realized, like, if we don't leave a trace, then there's less investigations, we're less tracked. Now, if we start looking at the content of a log, this is a sample of the passwords.txt that is extracted. So this will combine all passwords extracted from all browsers. So anything Chromium-based is supported out of the box by all of these vendors. Also, Microsoft is supported, Safari in some cases. Username and password is targeted, and the browsers, it goes after all profiles. So even if the users use many different Chrome profiles, all of the profiles will be slurped and combined in the password.txt.
So the kind of structure that we see is the following. The stealer log will be shared in massive archives on Telegram. And this is a constant flow of new data. Each zip file that you see in there would be one computer, one infection, one victim, and all the browser profiles within that. Within these files now, we can open those, and now this is where we find system info, list of all passwords, sometimes a screenshot of the infection, and then like Chrome profile information, cookies, history, you name it. So a wealth of information for threat actors.
Now, moving on to the economy, there's the first side of the economy is the supplier side. So this operates as a malware-as-a-service model. So it is sold and advertised on Telegram. Here's an example of an old red line stealer advertisement. So they brag about the various features that they support, like credit cards are stolen here. They talk about the supported browser. If we go deeper into another provider, Farsi, here we see that they brag about being FUD. So FUD meaning in this context fully undetected. So that's the cybercrime underground. Maybe Red Team uses FUD as well, but I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. But so for cybercrime, it's how they name it. And also you have like any piece of software, you have various features that are supported. The common ones that we see is like you customize the icon to look like Adobe Photoshop or the target software. You have a file pumper. It's a weird name, but it makes the file size bigger so that it avoids being uploadable to sandboxes or avoids the AV emulating the executable. Around 600, 700 megabytes for a PE, it won't get uploaded to a sandbox or it won't run in an AV. This is a heuristic they use so that the system stays performant. We've been seeing a lot of that, by the way. And you can also have droppers so that the true intention of the malware will not be revealed. If you analyze the first layer, you need to get to the second layer to be able to understand what they are after.
This analysis is pretty complex to do, to be honest. These stealers, how it works is that the people that get those malwares as a service, their goal now will be to integrate that into another executable. And there's tons of those that exist on the market. We see here a list. Those at the top left corner are the big players that we're seeing right now. So SteelC, Luma C2, Raccoon, Vidar, these are the big ones at the moment. But you can see there's a bunch also of other stealers that exist. And the thing is that also, sometimes they are in the same family. It's the same base code that they're using. So just like Homer at the Duff factory that learns that between Duff Light and Duff regular, it's the same beer. So same thing for malware. It is actually the same builders that are used between the different info stealer malwares.
Well, not all of them, but the specific case for Meta and Redline was super clear. Same infrastructure, same builders, same UI, same functionality. So it's clear that it was the same group that was behind them. There is similar recoupment in other families as well. Now moving on to distribution. So the malware itself is built on a malware-as-a-service model. So people buy this and then they will collect logs from victims, and then they will sell these logs. So there's another specialization in that market. Again, this is advertised on Telegram. Here is Joker logs, sell his logs. He brags about 150,000 to 250,000 logs monthly that are shared on Telegram if you purchase for his service. You can buy for a month, for 2 months, or for a lifetime. If you want to be a threat actor, little advice for you, never buy lifetime subscription because it never lasts a lifetime. They always like rebrand or switch names or whatever, so you should pay maybe the 2 month and renew. I don't know, but I'm not giving advice to threat actors. Sorry about that. No, it's just for the joke. It's also advertised on clear web, so like regular website with like proper design, web design. I wish I would say this was AI generated, but this screenshot is so old that it's not. So someone spent some money building a nice template, selling neon stealer logs, so hard house cloud logs. And he is a lot more affordable than the previous one we saw on Telegram. So the lifetime subscription is $1,300.
These stealer logs now, these services, the thing is that they offer a service to the population, to threat actors. But one thing that we see is that they will sometimes get the first pick. They can decide that, oh wait, this stealer log seems interesting to me. So they will keep it for themselves. They might sell also stealer logs to initial access brokers as well. So this data seems more lucrative. So everything else, they will just bundle it. Like on dark web forums, Russian market, which is a popular marketplace, and also illicit Telegram channels. So these stealer logs are distributed all around. And yeah, sometimes they're used as a sample. So just like these delicious sausages, from time to time, you take one for yourself because, yeah, as you spend the day giving these sample to the people, so you decide, hey, I'll have one for myself. So, yes.
Yeah, we like to say that low-value logs are recycled or like offered as free sample, but be careful because some of them will carry an executable file in them that will get you infected for another family of stealer logs. So these free samples can carry malicious content, or you need to be wary. Poisonous, I guess, sausages, to follow Eric's fascination for sausages.
It's not fascination. This is a picture we took. Anyway, yes.
So, okay, how big of a problem is it, Eric?
Yes. So, okay. This year, we have the data from the Verizon DBIR report, the Data Breach Investigations report. Among a lot of things, they're saying first, 88% of web application attacks are done with leaked passwords. So we're not talking about attacking a system and breaking down into a web app. Logging in is the way to go. Also, 46% of stealer logs actually include corporate credentials. Most of the credentials would be your personal stuff, your Facebook, your Netflix, whatever you do at home when you're alone. But also, you will have the passwords that you're saving for your company. And this is where it becomes lucrative for attackers. Because ransomware attacks have been found to have a strong correlation. The DBIR report is stating that, in general, an average of 2 days is spent between the moment a stealer log with corporate credentials is exposed and the moment a ransomware attacks happen. So threat actors are leveraging stealer logs heavily for their attacks.
And I never thought, oh, no, let's go back. I never thought I would say this in my entire career, but I'm proud to say that we are a contributor to Verizon's DBIR. These reports are really influential. It's the kind of the first report that is market-led that was like, oh, actually this helps. This helps emphasis on the risk. And so thanks to our wonderful team, we managed to be a contributor to the data regarding the dark web exposure or risks. Now, how big of a problem is this? Again, we have in our collection 130 million stealer logs that we collected. We collect around 3 million a week, and 450,000 of them are unique. So there's a big amount of rehashing, resharing happening on this cybercrime market. And around 20% of the logs contain ADFS or Active Directory credentials in them. So there is a corporate risk, although as you'll see in the screenshot campaigns that we're going to cover shortly, they are still targeting end users, home computers more than the corporate. But the corporate happens to be, you logged once on web, Outlook, webmail, and the credentials are in your browser now forever. This is the vector.
So what we're seeing is that using passwords to logging in is the way to go. It's not hacking in anymore. So password leakage is a major problem. And you see these companies in the right, Santander, Snowflake, Ticketmaster, Salesforce, all of these there is a stealer log implicated in major incidents that happened in the last couple of years. So this is something that companies take very seriously, while previously, like EDR's vendors, AV vendors were considering info stealer malware as something that is fringe. But no, it is a big problem right now, where something as simple as a link to download free MidJourney will have that ripple effect that can lead to a triple extortion ransomware attack. So we'll talk more about free MidJourney in a while. But yes, the threat is real, and companies are paying the price for the stealer log ecosystem.
Yeah, and now what a big angle that allows us to understand this economy and track the malware campaigns is that the threat actor added a feature that really helps us here. We call these mid-heist selfies. So they will take a screenshot of the computer at the time the malware runs. So this means that we know exactly what the user was doing at that moment, and so we can derive from that infection vector. So we like to compare this as this, little girl taking a picture of her in front of, a crime scene, if you want, or like, awkward Russian, cyber criminal, or like traditional criminals, like bragging about something they're about to do or that they just done.
There may be cooking food in the Arctic also. You don't know. Anyway, so
fair.
Yes. So let me guide you through one such campaign. So Stealer Logs, when they purchase the Malware-as-a-Service, they will bundle it into an executable, and now they need to distribute it. So I'll talk about one such campaign that was used for MidJourney. So each of the following screenshots is one different victim, where the screenshot was taken at a different moment in the infection. So first screenshot here, we have someone on Google that typed MidJourney. Next person, they got the result for MidJourney. And the first link on top is a sponsored Google ad. This one points to ai.mid-journey with a 0.org. So not the real link compared to what we see in the bottom, midjourney.com. That person click on that sponsored link, and now they end up on that web page that tells, hey, this is an open beta. It is possible that there's a false trigger for your anti-virus, so please disable that. Next screenshot. Yeah, see. Yeah,
You forgot
sure.
the joke.
Yes. So now the person, good. All right, I'll do this. I'm downloading the file, and now I have my executable on my computer. Now, you'll have to disable your antivirus and try again. We understand that if we have that screenshot, the malware did its job already. So now that person, so I remember, they told me I need to disable my antivirus. So now what I'll do, I'll go on Google and type how to disable my Bitdefender. Good. Now I go in Windows Defender in this case, I disable my antivirus, and now it's time to have sweet, sweet AI images. Yeah. Now, there's this moment of grief. They're nearing like step 5 out of 6. Like, I think I did a mistake. Now they're asking themselves, reflecting, is MidJourney a real thing or a virus? And yeah. And at this point, are you sure you want to to permanently delete these items? Stage 6 in the grief cycle, acceptance that you won't get cool AI images.
But so to be fair, though, this is Cinema 4D, so we don't have a screenshot of the deletion of the MidJourney file. But Cinema 4D is another software that is backdoored with stealers often. All right. We tracked campaign infection vectors. This is more recent work that we did in September. We analyzed over 50,000 screenshots using LLMs. And, this is small, let me zoom in. So we can see like the big vectors are like system utilities. Gaming is like more than a third of the infections are gaming related. We say also essential software, which would be like Windows, Office, and stuff like that. And so we're now labeling the software, and we can then do awareness campaigns on like, you know what, you should not download a paid-for cracked version of a desktop recorder because you'll get infected. Windows has one built in. Learn about that instead, right? We can do awareness around that. Now, we promised that we would go beyond just the usernames and passwords that are stolen. So this is the next section of the presentation. There is a file harvester modules in most Stealer logs. It will be focused in order to keep the package small. So it will go after documents, spreadsheets, TXT file, KeePass databases. So KeePass is a popular open source password manager. And it will stay focused on the documents and desktop folders. So to minimize, to steal this password.txt that you have on your desktop. I hope anyone here doesn't have that. That is very common. Anyone who did the pen test or red teaming, they go after these files. And so this example here, we see that the person is French speaking, had done some homework, has his resume stolen, philosophical tests here, and then some stuff about piano, French-speaking person. And this was the screenshot that was in the stealer. So this is the victim. We confirm that it is a French-speaking, happened in 2023, and the vector was Adobe Illustrator crack.exe, and it was a 700 megabyte application. So like everything we previously mentioned is combined here in that screenshot. Now, there is another thing that caught my attention that I wanted to do a deep dive on is it was targeting authenticator TOTP apps. And I was like, oh my God, is it working? Is it stealing enough information that you can reproduce the TOTP? So I looked at what is stolen. It is in a level DB format. This is a Chrome data format. And you can see that a lot of stuff is in plain text. So I analyzed it, and it turns out it's JSON. And you have like the TOTP, the algorithm, and the secret there. So I was like, could it be used to generate the MFA token? So I was like, let's try it out. So I spin out a VM, I install the extension, I generate a token. So this is a token I generated myself. And then I did what the stealer would do. I went after the file, extracted the secret, put the secret in a TOTP token generator with the right parameters, and fair enough, as you can see in step 6, I have the exact same token. So on the left-hand side is the victim, on the right-hand side is the attacker, and so it is able to steal MFA token. So one advice for enterprise users is to blacklist these applications to prevent your user from using at-risk TOTP generators that are targeted right now by information stealer malware. And this specific case, this is the most popular TOTP generator on the Google Web, on the Chrome Web Store. So it is targeted. This slide is more for people who are doing IR. So I gave the path that are stolen and tools that can extract the data. So I'm going to skip right through it, but it's for reference purposes. Next was password manager browser extensions. So I was like, okay, we use Bitwarden at work and with NorthSec, the event I run in Montreal. Are we at risk? So I went, it steals the same type of files that it did for the TOTP generator. Looked at it, multiple profiles supported, looked at the logs. So it looks more like, it's not a copy of the vault, it's more like a log to help developer troubleshoot stuff. Fortunately enough, the important stuff is encrypted. And this goes beyond just the password. This includes descriptions, URLs, login, names, everything's encrypted. And it is using state-of-the-art, hash-macked stuff. So unless you have the vault's password, you won't be able to crack or to get any advantage out of this. So password managers, still safe. And I looked at Dashlane and a couple of others as well. Now, the key pass files that are stolen, what would be the tradecraft for an adversary? Well, turns out that part of John the Ripper, you have a tool that, given a key pass database file, you are able to get the keying material that you need to crack for an offline attack. So I reproduced the whole thing, and it's possible with John the Ripper and Hashcat to use the GPU password cracking. So if you have password vaults that were exfiltrated, you are at risk depending on the strength of your master password. Let's hope that it was not in the browsers somewhere, right? Because you can attack that like that. I actually have a workshop where you need to take the password files that were stolen to crack a key pass files using mangling rules, because the password is a little bit different, but not too much that a GPU can't crack in a matter of minutes. Anything else in these files? Well, yes, and I haven't had the time or didn't, like, we know the risk for many of these things, but so Azure is targeted, Discord is targeted, Steam is targeted, because this is, you know, cybercrime teenagers after all, so lots of gaming and Bitcoin stuff. AnyDesk is targeted, Proton VPN, Electrum, open VPN files, which usually carry the keys in the files. So these are very dangerous for remote access. FileZilla, Binance, Phantom, XDefi Wallet, a lot of different things are targeted, and they all copy from one another. So one will innovate in the market, and the other ones will copy it. So it's just going really fast, the amount of stuff they steal.
But I'm hearing you. You're saying, hey, I don't save my password in my browser. I don't use any of these things, so I'm good. Well, there's one thing you might not do is clear your session cookies every single day. Session cookies are also harvested by info stealers. So now, you have a piece of malware that collected what is your computer, what is your IP address, your screen resolution, your hardware device details. And now you have the session cookies as well. So you understand what I'm saying? We can do session hijacking, defeating 2FA, and even fancy impossible travel XDR protections, because you're able to VPN in from pretty much the same area than the person and use something like a browser that will replicate exactly the same details from the stealer log. So this session now is compromised, so even if there were no password that got leaked, session hijacking is possible thanks to an info stealer.
And by the way, so this tool is a cybercrime tool that allows you to leverage stolen cookies easily. But there's a cracked version circulating online, and that cracked version is backdoored with a stealer log. So like the script kiddies that are trying to do that, they get infected, their stuff is stolen. So we have a lot of cyber criminals in our collection of stealer logs. Fortunately for us, unfortunately for them. All right, now that we got you real scared, what can we do about it? Or what are we doing about it, right? So a new defense mechanism that was built in Chrome in 2024 is called application-bound encryption. So it's a defense in-depth feature. Basically, the SQLite databases that have the cookies and the browser history and all that good stuff is now protected by an elevated service and a different set of permissions. And you need to interact with that service in order to access those files. You will not be able to do direct file I/O. So it was a good idea, but it was bypassed really quickly. Like 2 months after, it was bypassed. And you know, there are red teamer projects that bypassed it, but also the cybercrime. And there are various various techniques that were used. So I'm going to cover quickly some of them. You could launch a headless Chrome with remote debugging and then instrument the debugging to go after the files. So since it's a Chrome, it will be authorized to discuss with the elevated service. You could dump memory. So if you have admin, you can go after the processes and dump memory. You can impersonate a Chrome using the same COM object characteristics, which will allow you to talk with the elevated service. Or you can disable application-bound encryption in the registry, kill all Chrome processes, the user will relaunch Chrome, and the ABE will be gone. So these are all the techniques that we saw in the wild, and I put some reference. Red Canary did an awesome job at cataloging some of them. Now, why doesn't it matter, okay? I know it's hard when you build something to arms race against the bad guys and then they bypass it instantly. But I'm here to tell you that still we are in a better position now than then, because all of these bypasses either require admin or are more detectable than file I/O. If you launch a Chrome process, this will leave a trace in the logs, something you can do about during IR, something EDR or AV can look for. So there is more evidence that is left. Before the application-bound encryption, it was only file I/O that was required. Open a file, read a file, stuff that we don't log or look at that much, right? And if you rely on memory dumping, the new technique, that technique is brittle. Every Chrome update, every browser, whereas before it was supporting all Chromium-based browser with one code path. So we got better telemetry is what I'm trying to say.
Another technique also is to simply validate the leaked credentials. These credentials that show up organizations should be looking and to find are those credentials that someone could log in. Because one thing we see in Stealer logs is that people will use, let's say, their work email to sign up for Facebook or DHL or whatever. And now, also, they will reuse the same password. So someone was using this on a password on some adult website. You receive the Stealer, and now you test it to enter ID, for example, to validate, is the person actually using the same password? And you would be surprised. Humans like their passwords. So they cherish them and carry them to their whole lifetime. So validation of Entra ID credentials is something very useful so that you're able to catch leak credentials before a bad actor is able to leverage them.
And then there's more happening on the defensive side, especially regarding stolen sessions. One of the initiatives that I'm tracking is the device-bound session credentials, DBSC. So this is a new API for shorter-lived session cookies that are automatically renewed transparently. It's bound to the TPM, but the downside is that it requires a server-side support, which means that it will take a while for the whole ecosystem to adapt. That's what I was telling everyone earlier this year. But turns out that Google made it to Chrome, so they expedited it in Chrome, so now it's in Chrome stable. And they are in beta on Google Workspace already. So now you can enforce passkeys and DBSC in Google Workspace. That's in beta right now. But this completely invalidates the attack surface of stolen cookies, which is, very, I think, very good. And we'll see that in the future. We won't necessarily see that on smaller vendors, but if Okta, Apple, Microsoft, and Google are doing it, then a lot of the high-value credentials or session cookies are going to become no longer useful. So I think this is a step in the right direction for sure.
So I'm analyzing the scene. I think the doom and gloom is starting to hit on you all. And I will be wondering, what is law enforcement doing about this? Well, good news. They're able to take action. Joint operation from multiple intelligence agencies have been able to shut down info stealers operations, like in this case, Cookie Monster, and also Operation Magnus for that was used for the takedown of Redline. So yes, there is light. But the
no, give me 1 sec. Okay. I want to say two things about Magnus. First, Flair, we helped with the investigation. The law enforcement investigation started after a BotConf presentation we did in France in 2023, where Interpol got interested and started doing actions. And there's also, so Operation Magnus has a really cool video, making fun of threat actors, and they have this line in it that I want to share. It says, where VIP means very important to the police. So they listed the names of all the threat actors in that video, shaming them and making sure that they know they are tracked, right? So it's interesting how bold law enforcement is getting at now.
So, but now the thing is that, yes, Redline, there was a takedown that was done, but through our telemetry, the thing is that, yes, there is a decrease in infection from Redline, but as you can see, there's still a life beat, a heartbeat that is happening afterwards. And more recently, there's Luma C2. There was a takedown at the beginning of this year. These are the dark red lines. As you can see, yeah, there's a takedown, but it continued afterwards. The Hydra in Greek mythology, you cut a head, there's another one that grows even stronger than before. So yes, it's extremely difficult for law enforcement to cut down on this epidemic.
All right, so wrapping up, the things, it's going to take a while because there's a lot of lessons here. We want you to remember that 1 out of 3 breaches, a third of the breaches, stolen credentials are involved somehow in the chain. So it's a very big risk. We think that the defense approach or how we should reduce that risk is via 3 things. So understand, educate, protect, and remediate.
Well, for the understand, educate, well, good thing you're sitting down. Oh, sorry.
No, I pushed at the same time, sorry.
Yes, you're sitting down here, so you're learning about it. So good job. But also other things that you can do. First, remember, no need for administrative rights. So even if you have this in place, it's not enough. Infections happen a lot at home, where you don't have an EDR, you don't have an antivirus in your employees, where you're able to control because little Timothy has downloaded free Robux on a YouTube channel they really like. So this is a big issue. Education must be done against cracked software. I don't know your stance on crack. It's good one time, but over time you learn that might be bad. So cracked software is a big problem. You should rarely disable your antivirus, so don't do that. Don't share your computer with family members because they will do the mistake. We've seen that countless of time where it's little Timothy that did something bad, and now mom or dad is the cause of an attack at widespread. And also study what is a Stealer log, and you'll see we have some to provide you at the end.
Yes. I like to say, like, we should have, like, you know, we all have wash your hands sign at our offices. We should have one nearby that says, don't disable your AV, right? There's no reason to do that. It should be suspicious. Of course, you guys all know that, but it's our users that needs to know all of this, the education portion. On the protection side, there's stuff that has proven effectiveness, okay? Standalone password managers, I haven't found one that was vulnerable to the stealers. They don't go after that just yet. And they would have to like memory dump or like kill processes. Windows Smart Screen is effective because the AI MidJourney thing was not properly signed and Windows Smart Screen would have blocked it. And also, ad blocking is really effective. Many campaigns that we are tracking, they used Google Ads to just bump the result higher. They impersonate Slack, Teams, they impersonate Java, and so they get up there, and then you get infected. And these are hard to reproduce because these are highly, like they buy the ads in a way that it will not target cybersecurity professionals. So it's like really laymen's that are getting infected. So ad blocking could be a good corporate strategy to prevent these.
Now, remediation. Well, first, keep track of Stealer logs. I know it's not easy. You might not want to pay $1,300 for your lifetime subscription. There are products out there that can help you. Also, make sure the credentials are working or not. So validate credentials. Don't stop like sessions. Don't kill session. Force password resets anytime there's a password, because threat actors reshare Stealer logs all the time. Also, find and manage shadow IT within your compromised users. It is possible in a Stealer log that you won't only find the Entra ID credentials, but also, let's say, the Jira, the Dropbox, where the employee has also been sharing information that is not under your SSO. So take the time to analyze, because an info stealer event is an incident in itself. So you must have all the investigation tools to understand the ramifications of that incident.
And so we're going to finish with one more thing, the community contribution. We are providing two things. It is behind a QR code. I know QR code, but I mean, it's a URL to a Google form. So like, feel free to fill it if you're interested in the gifts. The gifts are a set of PowerShell scripts that allows you to test against Entra ID. Wink, wink, if you're a red teamer, there's a lot of stuff that can be done with this, by the way. Instructions are provided to create the app registration and everything required to be able. The authentication is done against the Microsoft Graph API, so it can be done by many places in the world without necessarily generating a lot of noise on the target or your own organization. And second is a simple set of Stealer logs. So I'm giving you like a handful of Stealers. And how did I make this ethical? I took threat actors' Stealer logs. So yeah, that's my ethical line right there. Looking at this, you get an epiphany of like how juicy the stuff is, right? You're like, oh my God, I breathe behind this person's neck. I know where he's like booking planes, where he's, which hotels is his favorite hotel, because of the autofill. Browser autofill is part of it and is stolen. So you know a lot of stuff, banking information, home address, stuff like that. So it is really powerful. And for me, this was a big moment in my career where I was like, you know what? This cybercrime stuff is not so boring after all. Like, this is really useful for investigations.
Thank you, everybody. So you have our contacts. We have time for a few questions. So
first question, we'll get a NorthSec hardware badge. Yes. Let me light it up.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hello, hello, hello.
Woo.
Hello, hello.
You can repeat the question.
Good, good. Yeah, I can repeat the question.
Yeah. Okay, so how effective are the things that are in the browsers that look for, matches on saved passwords? I suppose they upload hashes or something like that. I think some password managers do that too. Are they effectively doing the same thing? Are they watching Stealer logs and looking for matches? Do you know what I'm talking about?
So you're talking about like in your password manager when you can test, is that password part of breaches and whatnot? Yes. So some of the password manager who buy Flair's intelligence, they're good. The others, I can't tell. No, it's a joke. It's a joke. It depends on their data, right? So if they have access to a lot of data, it's good. If not, it's bad. But let's say they leverage. Have I been? Yeah, and Chrome added it and all that. I think it's good, a good defense in depth measure to make sure you're not using weak passwords that are already breached. And I assume most of them must be using Have I Been Pwned because it's a free API level access. And Have I Been Pwned, like Troy Hunt, is really good and he's getting really good data. So I would assume that this is definitely helping. And I would advise people to test for their credential that way for sure. And since it's hashed, it doesn't expose your password necessarily, so it's not something I would be against for sure. So yeah, here is your hardware.
Question in the back?
Yes.
First off, thanks for this. Question, how do you recommend trying the passwords we find in these dumps? Obviously, management's not a fan of me just trying to sign into everyone's accounts to see if the password's right.
Do you want to answer, Eric?
So, oh wow, this is so loud. Here it was different. Yeah, I'm able to speak without a microphone.
No, it's
yes,
recorded.
Yes. So, okay. The passwords, of course, management might not be okay with it. I think what is important in that case is to make sure your SOC is aware that this password has leaked so that they are able to do validation now. They can look into logs and see, is this password for, let's say, a period of 1 week, 2 weeks, like, am I seeing unusual activity around that account? So I'd say if you don't want to test the credentials, at least put mitigations, measures on the SOC level so that you're able to have proper access control at that moment. Next question.
Do we have other questions?
I was just going to ask, in what way are they getting around not having a user having admin rights as far as, because some of the stuff you showed was EXEs and stuff, which are usually...
Yeah, you'll need to talk closer to the mic and louder. I can't hear you.
In what ways are they getting around a user not having admin rights? Some of the examples you showed, is EXEs and stuff like that, where users would need admin, but is there something, what's hidden in there that is getting around a user not having admin rights to steal that info?
I only heard admin rights and EXEs and...
I will take it. The question was, how are they able to get around the fact that you might need an admin right to run an executable? And the answer is, home is the problem. Because the people are sharing their Chrome profile between work and home, so it's at home that the problem is, where you don't have proper control. So this is why customers come to us and say, oh, this computer is not mine, so there's nothing I can do about it. And that's the problem with Stealer logs, is every computer is an infection vector, not only your own hardware in a company.
But I would like to add to that as well, that we don't see application whitelisting that used. Like, even if you're not admin, you are allowed to run executables, and many of the strategies that the stealer uses doesn't require admin rights. So this combo still exists, and application whitelisting would be a really good defensive mechanism, but almost no organization has the time to configure it properly.
More of a comment. We insist that people use a different browser for home and work. And so that kind of avoids the Chrome sharing that thing. So
you can also disable the Chrome syncing feature when you deploy Chrome using the enterprise policies. So that's also a possibility that you should look into if you have this kind of power over your organization.
Other questions? Well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you have been great.
Yeah.
You successfully fought the food coma. So
Yes.
yeah, good job.
If you have questions, we'll be at the Flare booth. We have cool stuff. So thank you.